Fairly new building, probably 15 years ago.
Right.
That's Swanson?
I think it's a Rainbow Home.
Swanson.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah, well, next to the hospital.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'll
So we'll come out with a draft, nothing is set in stone yet, from the public, that we're just moving along this process. We will have a public hearing prior to any law, we'll review it, and we'll have a public hearing. At that time, the public will be asked and encouraged to put their input, and nothing's in stone, so it's finally done. But at this point, we just want to get moving, because the other CS part of the district is involved with this too. We don't want to do one without the other.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Gosh, I sure would like to see some accommodation made for the preservation of what's left of the bluestone sidewalks on Greenwich Avenue. Like New York City or London or Newport, Rhode Island, you know, take an active role in trying to preserve those and hand them on to the next generation.
Or every civic village in Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah, I really like the bluestone sidewalks. I think they're an asset to the village, and I could go on and on, but I won't. Yeah.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, and a UFO landing strip.
Yes, sure.
And donuts.
I noticed at the time you didn't joke around with that. That was very interesting. Just
I joke around with
but
them.
not over there.
You just went to the right meeting.
Well, I do have other commitments. I guess we can go into the hospital. Is everybody finished with CS1? Okay. Now, in the hospital, from what I understand, and we were moving along on that, we thought we had something, but a number of members of the board were a little concerned about that and wanted it basically expanded, I guess. So, go for it, guys.
Sure.
What they'd like to see included in that,
Sure.
I mean, like expanded.
I'll go first because I brought this up. I guess my issue is this. In the village, we have a shortage of rateables. Our tax base is not what it needs to be, and we need to broaden it by bringing in new rateables. My concerns were that the zoning as written was not one that encouraged new rateables coming in, and wouldn't be one that'd be very viable based on the restrictions on the property, based on the restrictive covenant that's placed on it by the property owner, and also by the market. Things like office space aren't really moving very much right now. So, from my understanding, and I'm not a planner, I don't pretend to be, but with good zoning, we need to set aside different areas for commercial development. I think, like Joel, when you mentioned manufacturing industrial in Greenwich, that might not be the best place for it, but industrial manufacturing uses, that's a rateable. It's not something like a school or a hospital that may or may not pay taxes.
That was my point.
That would bring in money. So I think that somewhere like that, the OBH zone would be ideal for manufacturing industrial with heavy restrictions placed on top of it. I would be in favor of putting something like light industry there, not heavy manufacturing, not heavy industrial, but something that would allow manufacturing industrial uses, but with restrictions such as no smokestacks or different height restrictions need to be set back. The nice part of the area is it can be set back, and we can place restrictions so on that wouldn't force it to be set back. It's right on the highway, so it would be a viable location for a business like that, and it would build the tax base. Something like a school would not grow the tax base. And this is a golden opportunity we have to bring in more revenue, to broaden that base, and that's what I would be in favor of. Initially, I had mentioned retail. I'm a little concerned because I think that Trustee Matthews brought up some valid points about downtown. I think I'd be interested in hearing what some potential retail uses might be that wouldn't be competitive with downtown businesses. If they exist, they might not. But I don't have that plenty background to determine what those are. But I think something like light industry, I would be very interested in. And just to hear from a planning perspective, your thoughts on it. Because again, I'm not 100% sold, but that's where my mind is at right now. So.
I think that we moved in that direction somewhat, maybe just not as much as you would like. We started with the research and development laboratories, and I remember looking up definitions that we can definitely provide you with some. A lot of municipalities have your concern about the pollution, but still want the rateable. So there's definitely, we can definitely come up with a narrow scope, a narrow definition of what you're trying to get to, and that's, you know.
I'd be curious Because right now, up on Hatfield Lane, when you have kind of Minolta, data distributors and all that, I'd be curious to know exactly what that zoning is, because it seems to have worked out beautifully up there in that area. Everything up there is very well done. It's displaced from the immediate downtown area, so it doesn't have a negative aesthetic impact, but it's bringing in a lot of ratables. So I'd be curious to see what that is, and weigh the viability of that zoning added to what's proposed in OBH. So I'm not sure if you know what that is over there on Hatfield Lane?
I don't.
That's fine, I'm just thinking about ideal areas. You know, I think that that's a home run of what's going on over there. So when I look at like Chester's Industrial Park as, you know, a beautifully done zoning, because it's set aside, and the OBH zone isn't as set aside as Chester's Industrial Park is by any means. They have, you know, it's a lot more pushed aside. But at least if we put restrictions on, you know, coverage area, et cetera, I think it might be a real viable use up there.
Yeah, sure, we can I can look at I think it probably is IP.
It is,
over there.
the IP district.
Can look at that and see what's permitted there, and see if we want to go to that extent, or if we want to pull it back a little bit and not go, if there's anything there that might be burdensome by the residential development that's already in the OBH.
Yeah, I'd want to have restrictions on, you know, and I don't know how to phrase these things, you know, I don't have that background, but something that's not, you know, not undue burden on those residents. But something like traffic, since you have the highway right there, I don't think traffic would be all that bad, especially since the current resident there is a hospital with a helicopter pad. So I don't think, you know, much more could come in that's going to cause that much more traffic there that wouldn't go just right in off the highway.
Right, well, it would have to be large enough, you know, for the trucks to be able to come in and circulate and not bother people and things like that, but I don't think, I don't know if that's a problem at Connecticut or not in that particular area.
Yeah, I don't know.
When the IP district was, if I recall correctly, when the IP district was originally conceived, the IP district had pretty strong restrictions in order to contain the type of development that was permitted and it yet allow for there to be industrial development. At the time when it was envisioned, there were to be no offices at that point, and it was supposed to be all light industry. The offices came in later, and an accommodation was made. One of the major concerns was that there be enough of a buffer between any prospective, and well, it was about housing, existing housing at that point. If you're talking about combining, and I think that's worthy of looking, especially if you're modeling it after the IP district over there, if you're looking at that, then there also is proposal allowing housing over in the OBH in the future, and I think that those buffers would have to be, is there a way to limit any access to any, I don't want to call it industrial, whatever name we're going to give it with the restriction, to not enter off South Street and have there be, if there were an entrance, not have it go in the residential area, but have it go to the more business area of coming off on the main exit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I mean, that would be for an applicant engineer to really look at, to make sure that they can accommodate the truck traffic without bothering, or without going through at least the parking areas for the senior development over there. But it's definitely something that would go into the zoning, should go into the zoning,
Yeah.
probably.
Well, if you're looking at expanding it that way, then I think we have to balance out the protection.
Yeah.
I agree.
Hours of operation too is probably another thing.
Without
A lot of
question,
industrial
yeah.
uses, you know,
Right.
third shift and things that, that
absolutely.
might be a burden to the neighbors as
Sure.
well. I mean, I know deliveries, but that's usually early in the morning more than it is, like, all night long.
Right, but still put it in writing just so it's clear cut and no gray area. Sure.
It makes everyone feel warm and fuzzy.
And if it could be, right, and it can be in the definition of what is permitted, it doesn't have to be to the same scale that it is permitted over in the IP district.
Absolutely.
There could be a medium in between.
We can get that list and check things off, cross things out.
The parcel size may limit that as well. You know, you can't have, 250,000 square feet commercial, or...
That's my major concern.
I think the concerns that have surfaced here as we've gone through this and discussed this, that was real sentiment here that we needed to make the zoning there less restrictive, which we did. But then as we look at some of the things that we permitted, of course, it was all tied in the beginning to medical uses, and it's understandable, I don't have any quarrel with that. They're building an incredible